Cleo Soul is a British neo-soul singer who is a name that I would imagine you would recognise watching this video from her features that she's had, particularly with Little Sims. She's popped up on a few Little Sims tracks now. Every time she pops up, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. The Stars Align, Woman is an absolute worldie of a track. Still, for me, one of the best songs of the 2020s so far. And I don't think you could be getting that accolade without Cleo Soul's contribution to that song. So she certainly is a vocalist I've always had an interest in. I tried her album from a few years back, Promises 2021. Some fantastic songs on there. I think the album overall was nice, but like some of the individual quality moments were just like absolutely wow. So yeah, Cleo Soul is definitely an artist I've been engaged with, someone I've wanted to listen more of, and we've had 2 albums from her this year somehow. We had an album pretty much a couple weeks or about a month or so back, which again was pretty nice, and now we have this new one here, Gold, with this really like stargazing beautiful cover that's just so spellbinding and just so pretty to look at. Like, it's just so lovely. The water, everything about the cover just screams to me is just wonderful to look at. And there's been a lot of albums this year that have had aquatic album covers, particularly in the R&B field, which I found quite interesting. There's been just a sea of them popping up, which I'm sure there's reasons for, and yeah, Cleo Soul is added to that list. And the main thing that took me aback when I heard this album and made me really want to, you know, get raring and ready to go to put out a review was just the beautiful nature in how she presents her vocals. I think that's going to be the one thing that stands out the most for a lot of people when they hear this. And I think for some people, perhaps that might be a quality that you appreciate, but that might be as far as the album goes. And I think that was what I felt about the album from a few weeks back. You know, I thought it was really well performed, but I didn't really get emotionally connected to the songs. Well, this time around, this album here has done that for me. I feel really taken aback by the emotional power that is delivered across all of these tracks on this album. And yeah, I just had to review it because I feel like it is one of the most unique albums of the year in just kind of being as minimal as possible, but still delivering in such fantastic ways. There will be no crying, you know, the absolute heartfelt nature to the vocals here. It feels kind of like very much, you know, kind of like Sunday at church with some of the gospel tinges that come through. There's quite a bit of gospel influence coming through on this album. I think those moments actually help lift the songs for me to new heights because it just sounds so stunning. The soulful nature behind this track as well is really like touching, I feel. And then of course, you know, you've just got the powerful delivery of what Cleo is singing here. She just sells every word she says, and it just feels like she really poured everything into tracks like this and the album as a whole. Some lyrical motifs do pop up that feel quite familiar at times, which again might put some people off, but I just think it's how she's delivering the lines that really sell it for me. On Please Don't End It All, with that kind of like changes refrain where, you know, we're all going through changes, that kind of thing. I understand that that is something that's commonly said with a lot of tracks across the history of music, but I just think the way it feels so raw and so emotive, that really helps take the song forward for me. And also I do want to mention Things Will Get Better, because this was a point in the album where I was like, oh, okay, I think I know why this album is actually connecting with me so well. And that is because it reminds me of times of an artist like Leanne La Havas. You know, the vocal similarities actually feel quite similar at times. The vocal similarities feel similar. That's a stupid thing to say. Oh my God. But you get what I'm trying to say. Just the way that they both kind of feel like they're not rushing. Like they're singers that feel like they're not trying to get to the end point. They're just going to hang on the note for a little bit longer, and then the words might be spaced out quite delicately. You know what I mean? Just the way that they both sing, particularly Leanne on her most recent album too. There's just something about that quality to it that just makes me really connect to this, because, you know, I'm a big fan of Leanne, and Cleo is kind of hitting those heights for me too. That being said as well, there are some moments where there's just like subtle guitar licks that come through that really add to the production, because there are lots of moments that feel very piano heavy on this album, but like when these tracks like Reason come through with those really nicely gently plucked guitar, it just sounds so good. It just adds a nice dimension to the production that I just think sounds so tasty. It sounds like, honestly, this is destined to be performed at a Tiny Desk concert. I mean, I should probably have checked this before, but I don't know if Cleo Sol has ever done one, but I think if she ends up doing one, this track is a shoo-in for that. It will sound incredible in that setting, I can assure you now. But yeah, really, really beautiful moment. Again, that gospel coming through at the end is so good. The track Lost Angel is stunning. This track is absolutely stunning. I just think there's got to be a way for a track like this to gain some traction, because there are artists out there that do have the power to bring in bigger audiences by doing these kind of like vocal heavy piano based tracks with really like fluttery production. You know, you've got someone like Emily Sandé over the past like 10 years that has been really popular, even in Adele too. I mean, I'm not saying that Cleo is a vocalist on the level of Adele. I don't want that comparison to get, you know, twisted or anything like that. I'm just saying the similarities are kind of there, and I think Lost Angel has that potential. Life Will Be is super hopeful. The backing vocals are super effective as well. Across this album, there's just so many moments where the richness really comes through when you get those backing vocals joining in with Cleo. It just sounds really natural and in the moment, and very much just like performed in one take, and then they just went with it. Perhaps it wasn't, but that's just how this album feels, in particular on tracks like this. And then Gold, I mean, that neo soul influence really coming through on a track like this one. It's across the album too, but I think it's often quite stripped back in the most like subtle ways, really. It's a very subtle, minimal album is what I'm trying to say, but this track feels very much like something Erykah Badu would do. So yeah, lots of compliments for this album. I can totally understand why someone would listen to this though and feel that they want a bit more, but I'm impressed with this one just because of how minimal it is and how much it has connected with me, because at the end of the day, that's what music is about, you know? It's how it makes me feel personally. I could see how someone might feel it needs a bit more, but surprisingly for me, in this one particular case, I actually think less has ended up being more, which often I might have said in a review like this, I just wish there was a bit more, because a lot of albums do bring me that kind of feeling. But on this particular one, yeah, I think less is 100% more, and I think Cleo killed this one. It's her best album so far. It's an 8 out of 10 from me, going to be on my year-end list for absolute sure certainty. It's a great album that I think just will be nice to comfort me whenever I may be feeling not so good. You know, it'll be an album that just kind of touches those places, you know. That sounded a bit weird, but you get what I'm saying. This is a great album. I hope this review kind of, you know, gives more people an interest to check it out. Don't forget, she has been a bubbling artist for the past few years, and it does feel like she's kind of hit that point now where she's put out her best work to date, and I hope that ends up being, you know, successful for her in the long run. So check it out if you haven't already. If you have, please let me know in the comments what you think. Do subscribe as well. Recommend me any albums you want me to review. I'd be happily, you know, up for taking suggestions. Do check out my Patreon. Have a good day, and goodbye.